Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Doug Dent. I'm glad to have you on the show, Doug. I'm excited to talk about what you're working on. It's certainly the central driver for the commercial industry these days. But Doug is the Chief Revenue Officer at Gray Falkon. They've developed a technology that removes 85% plus of unauthorized sellers on such key e-commerce platforms such as Amazon, Walmart.com, eBay, and other marketplaces. We'll talk more with Doug on how that whole industry is shaping up, where the opportunities are, where the challenges are. But before we get there, Doug, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
My name is Doug Dent. I've been in sales and sales leadership type positions for most of the last 15 years. I've spent a lot of that time in banking and financial services. And over the last year or so, I got in touch with some old friends from the General Electric company who had a startup and started asking them questions, and they were asking me questions, and made this kind of mid-career exciting jump over to helping drive revenue for a tech startup as opposed to like a 100-year-old bank. So a little bit of a change, but a lot of fun.
It's a little bit of a change, but some of the same rules apply, some of them don't. We'll tweeze through some of that in a second, but tell me more about Gray Falkon. I know you're relatively new there, but tell me more about how that's shaping up and what you guys are working on.
Yeah, for sure. Gray Falkon is, we help some of the biggest and best brands. Actually, I used to say biggest and best. Now it's kind of just some of the best brands in the world, because we have quite a few new up and coming, like smaller, medium-sized brands. But we help them with their online presence on Amazon, Walmart.com, eBay. We do that globally, and it's a lot of fun driving big results for customers. It's fun to see their faces and see their reactions after we get going with them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that if you can get that right, it's such a critical driver. Certainly there's tons and tons of pitfalls in that space, but I mean, here we are in 2023. What are you seeing customers asking for these days? I mean, how are they looking at that e-commerce, omni-channel commerce space?
Yeah, for sure. We have customers in many industries, so it can vary. We have customers, for example, in healthcare, where like it's illegal or not advisable to even sell the product at all on Amazon, and it still shows up there all the time. So that's one business case of just like try to help us remove every listing. We have other customers who sell themselves on Amazon, and we're helping them optimize how much they can sell versus others, and really protecting not only the brand but the consumer, because there are a lot of nefarious sellers out there and people who are dumpster diving and selling all kinds of stuff. So our customers are wide ranging in like what they need from us, but we like to help them. We like to figure out what's most important to them, and our solutions can typically drive results for them in that area that they prioritize.
That's such an interesting split. So in some ways, the solution that Gray Falkon offers is almost like making sure that companies can stay compliant in a way, right? For those kind of heavily regulated industries like healthcare services or products. And then the other area is, how do you actually literally manage your omni-channel approach so that you aren't seeing kind of illegal vendors, illegal products in the market? Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely fair. Our customers, typically when we tell them, we'll talk to people who have a decade or more of Amazon experience, and tell them that we'll help them remove 50-60% of their sellers in the next call it 2.5 months, and they don't believe us. So a lot of what, like in a weird sense, I feel like we're sort of like category creators. It's sort of like if I tried to sell you a Tesla in 1980, you'd be like, yeah, right. There's like that doesn't work. So
Yeah.
that's some of the fun challenge to it too, though, is once we get up and running and driving results for our brands.
Yeah, it's such a funny thing about that. And, you being someone who has deep, deep sales experience, the magic happens when you can align that moment in time where the market is ready for what you're selling, but you're not so far behind that you're chasing others into the space, right?
Yeah.
And you're not ahead of it. So it's always that kind of balancing act. I think in my career, I've always struggled because I'm a little bit ahead. I'm too far ahead of the curve.
Right.
And I get so excited about things. And then when the rest of the world wakes up to it and they're like, oh my God, Bench, have you heard about this new thing? It's, machine learning. And I'm like, yeah,
Right.
over that, but
Yeah.
you got to capture the moment and really when customers are wanting it. And certainly I'd say that Gray Falcon's in a space where anybody who built up their commercial business during the pandemic needs to be taking this stuff seriously, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to have a presence online, or even if you're just trying to have a traditional brick and mortar retail presence, your stuff's still going to show up online. So you definitely have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, Doug, let me shift gears slightly here. And I mean, clearly you have driven sales organizations. You're now in, I'd say, kind of an accelerated growth area space, and you're building up sales here. I mean, what is it about you that you gravitate to these types of growth roles, and where do you find joy in what you do?
It's almost like riding a wave. I live in San Clemente, California, and I'm a horrible surfer, but all my kids surf a lot. So it's almost, if you're in a growth company, you're kind of on the wave, and it's fun to be part of that and to drive that. So um, like our goal at Gray Falcon this year is to double and then to double again next year, and we're tracking towards those goals. And so what drives me to it is kind of like if we're growing, then my people on my sales team are doing well. They are earning commissions. They're really at the core band. It comes to like down to their lives, like they're uh having new babies or buying new homes or getting their new car they wanted to upgrade to. And so when things like that happen, it's exciting to grow together. It's sort of like there's revenue growth, and then there's like personal growth that you see in your friends and family's lives, and being part of a growth company kind of helps drive all of that.
Yeah, I can see that. I'd be curious because you've worked in big organizations, you worked at fast growing organizations. And my feeling is that sales today is so radically different than it was like even 5, 10 years ago. And tell me a little bit about kind of what you're seeing that's different in that whole process.
Yeah, for sure. When I started in sales at GE Capital, decade and a half ago, it was all about like picking up the phone and making calls. And everyone, you and I and everyone else, were sitting in their offices, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, and so the way you got a hold of people was phone and voicemail and just doing that over and over. And if and if the company wanted to grow, we would say, we'll just hire another 10 sales reps. That's just how you grow. And so the challenge today is we say we're definitely hiring and growing, but we say, can we double our revenue with our existing sales team? And then once everyone's pipeline is completely tapped out, then we'll go to hire. And what's changed that is a lot of, technology, email outreach, LinkedIn, sales navigator type outreach, as well as just like all the events and shows we go to around the country.
Yeah. Do you find that it's much more CRM system based?
Yeah, absolutely. We started using, I think GE was pretty ahead of its time. Like we started on salesforce.com, man, probably 10, 12 years ago there. having the CRM, having all the tools. We use a company called Outreach as well that helps us sequence all of our outgoing calls, emails, voicemails.
Mhm.
And it's really just trying to find that the person who has a need that we can help. Sometimes in sales can be misunderstood as something sort of like surfacey, or like I'm just out canvassing the market for trying to make people buy stuff. But like when we find someone who needs what our solution is, it it doesn't even feel like sales. It just feels like a conversation of, friends helping each other out.
Yeah, building that type of a relationship is magical. And I can imagine that if companies start using what Gray Falcon is doing, it's something you just kind of always will need. I mean, I don't see omni-channel commerce going away anytime soon, only growing and only becoming more digital and more data driven. So I'm going to have to kind of manage it and police it and make sure those unauthorized sellers are actually dealt with. So it's going to be a continuing effort for sure. But Doug, I mean,
Yeah.
as you look into 2023 and 2024, what's on the horizon for you and the team?
Yeah, for sure. Just to touch on something you just said reminded me of a quote I heard last week. Someone was saying that e-commerce and Amazon particularly is like a black hole, like it's just sucking the whole universe in, and you have to figure out how to play in that space. And so that's an exciting place for us to be. As we look forward into the next year, our goal is to just is to double our client base and continue to help the brands that we work with. And that's it in a nutshell. Like it's a lot more complicated than that.
Mhm.
Amazon, Walmart.com, eBay, they're changing their rules every week, every month. They're changing the types of things that they'll enforce and not enforce. There's sort of this constant swinging pendulum between being brand friendly and seller friendly.
Mhm.
And depending where that pendulum is at any given moment, affects how our brands are doing and what's happening on the entire platform.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know if that answered your question. That's kind of
No,
where
I
we're going.
know. I think it does. It's an interesting time. I feel like, during COVID, everything, it called out every company that had not really built out an omni-channel approach or strategy.
Yeah,
And so, we spoke with many, many customers that were in rush mode to get going. Even the companies that had activities going, it had still been such an afterthought for them and not kind of their core. And
yeah,
everything has completely shifted now. So it's absolutely the opposite, I would say, at this point, where the e-commerce element is at the center, the data is at the center now. And I mean, I gotta say, sometimes I go to real world stores and man, that experience is just horrendous. It's like,
yeah.
you've empty shelves, no customer service. Like,
Right.
I think it's that kind of idea of the zombie store, right? It's almost that we've shifted so much to the e-commerce strategy now that it's going to be hard for the world to get back. And that's why I said when I see products like Gray Falcon and what you guys are doing, I can't see how you don't continue to accelerate growth, because if you're selling anything, a product or a service or, a luxury good, a commodity, this is going to be an ongoing effort and challenge. If you're dealing with regulated products, the
Yeah.
compliance issues are real. I mean, I work with the healthcare space quite a bit. I mean, you do not want to fall afoul of the rules and regulations in that space. And so it can kind of make or break a company, a brand, division, etc. So Doug, I love what you guys are doing. If someone wanted to learn more, where's the best place to reach you, Doug?
You can follow me on LinkedIn, Doug Dent at Gray Falcon. You can shoot me an email, ddent@grayfalcon.com, or our website. It's a great place to learn about the business as well.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Doug, thank you so much for being on Uncaged today. We've been speaking with Doug Dent. He is the Chief Revenue Officer at Gray Falcon. We've been talking about Gray Falkon, which is a technology business. It's focused to remove 85% plus of the unauthorized sellers on Amazon, Walmart.com, eBay, and other online marketplaces. And you can see that as the world has shifted to primarily a digital commerce world, probably at least in the near future. I am sure many retailers might disagree with me on that one. Say it's still very much omni-channel, but heavily digital and heavily data focused. Getting this type of stuff right, making sure that everyone's authorized, everything's structured in a legal, copacetic manner is going to matter. Gray Falkon is there to assist. Thank you again, Doug, for being on the show, and we look forward to having you back.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks, Ben. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.
See you.